Bob McCown, John Shannon with you. I look forward to our daily little gathering here.
You do?
Well, yeah, and 99 times out of 100, we have done less than 200 of these shows, but there's very few days where I don't get motivated by whoever we're having on.
And are you motivated today?
I couldn't possibly be more motivated. He's one of my favorite guys ever. You know, I don't know how many 50,000 phone calls, 10,000 guests, probably 20,000 guests. I don't even know how many I've had. But this guy, I love him. I think he's the most fun guy and most interesting guy to talk to. Although the conversation is rarely overtly serious. He joins us today, the former manager of the Toronto Blue Jays, John Gibbons, when we come back after these messages. He needs no introduction. He's the former manager of the Toronto Blue Jays.
Bob.
What?
This is one where you say, look what the cat dragged in. This is that's one of these ones.
Well, I've used that line before with this guy.
I know.
John Gibbons is with us. You look beautiful, Gibby. Thanks for dressing for the show.
I tell you what, when I saw you with that coat on, I thought, man, I forgot just how big you were, man. I thought, you know what?
Well, when you got it, use it.
You're exactly right. Actually, I had a tank top on, so at least I upgraded from that.
Oh, thank you very much. We appreciate it greatly. How are things? You okay?
Yeah, things are good. Things are down here in Texas, kind of back to normal, I guess you could say. Not totally, but things are it's been crazy. I mean, we're all around the world. You guys know that. Hope you guys are doing well too.
Oh, we're hanging in. We're getting there. Things are starting to open up here. So one step at a time.
Well, when are they going to start? Are they going to play any games up there this year, or what do you think?
No way to know. I just heard this morning, guys, that the border is going to be closed for another month at least.
Yeah, to July 21st.
Is that the Canadian border or the southern border?
No, the Canadian border.
The southern border.
Actually,
I actually hate, John, not to get too political. I don't think the southern border's ever been closed.
It has. That's my point. Oh God! Well, it's funny. A real quick story. I was watching the news this morning, and there was this commentator on there, and he said he went to a hockey tournament. His daughter had a hockey tournament. This is along the Canadian border, some small town, and there was this Canadian family there, and he was talking to them, and they say, "Well, how'd you get over here?" They go, "Well, he shipped his car. The dad shipped the car over about a month ago, and then they took a helicopter over to Niagara to get there. So I guess you could fly in, but you can't." I'm thinking, God, we got it wrong, man. Yeah.
Oh, there's all kinds of holes in this Swiss cheese here. I can tell you. If you want to get somewhere and you absolutely have to, you can. But
right.
Of course, we're all legal and abiding citizens, so we wouldn't know anything about that. Well, tell everybody what you're doing. Are you still working with the minor league team?
No, you know what, Bob? I'm doing with the Braves. Alex over there with the Braves, and well, gosh, since the last time I talked, they had me last year going out and doing some scouting for some draft picks, and that lasted about a month. And the COVID hit, and they took everybody off the road. And this year I've been out a handful of times to look at potential guys. So it's kind of like the non-essential workers. I think I'm one of them. We go out sparingly. The other guys, they go, the regular scouts, they're out there doing their thing. So I'm kind of waiting, hopefully this summer I get out and maybe see some of the minor league teams, but no, I haven't done that yet.
Now you're an old school, good old boy, my kind of guy, baseball guy. When you go and look at a kid, are you giving it the eye test more than you're giving it the technology stuff with the radar gun and all the other nonsense?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. They have all the info they need, the videos and the breakdown, all the new stuff. I just go and watch the kid play, and I just try to compare him to the guys I've had that have played in the big leagues. See if I see some similarities, or because I think what happens in amateur ball, the competition is not always the best. so a kid can really stand out. But then you try to, measure them up to get, guys I saw day after day after day to kind of get a little better read. So yeah. So either that or they're just trying to keep me busy. Hopefully they're listening to my advice, but yeah, it's kind of fun. I enjoyed it. It was fun to get, I had that after I got fired, I had that whole year off. And I didn't see any baseball. And this year, a little bit last year and a little bit this year, it's just nice to go out and see some action.
So what do you look, sorry, John, is it easier to find a guy, in your opinion, who's a position player rather than a pitcher, or the other way around?
Gosh, you know what, Bob? That's a good question. Position players, one thing, it's hard to hit, right? We all know. I mean, it's hard to find good hitters, So if you got a guy that can hit, he stands out, and you love those guys, because there's not enough of them. As far as on the pitching end of it, you naturally like the good arms. I look a little deeper in that now because where I've been is, I think they need to be able to pitch, obviously. The game's kind of turned where they just come in and air it out now for an inning, and so they don't have to pitch. But I think in the long run, for value to your team, they got to have a feel of pitching, right? So, but I say that the hitters are a good hitter is so much harder to find. So I I would probably lean that way.
John?
You've I'll tell you what, you've hit a little bit of a chord. We had Shai Davidi on Friday, and the conversation ended up being about the future of what pitchers have to go through, and are we seeing are we just seeing the world of disposable pitchers now? Your guys aren't going 8-9 innings anymore. Where do you see the future of pitchers when you're scouting a guy, and when you are you just looking for a guy to go 3 innings, 4 innings every time, or are you trying to get a guy with a complete game?
Well, simply because of where I'm at, my my age and what I'm used to. I want a guy they can, you throw him out there. An official game's 5 innings. You got to at least be able to go 5 or 6 innings, or that's what you want. Those, but I don't. It seems like. And I've been removed now for a couple of years. It seems like the pitchers have all bought into that. Well, if I go 3 innings or 4 innings, they yank me, so be it. I'm getting paid for that anyway. And so I think their mentality's changed. When things started changing fast a few years ago, they'd fight you on that. They resist you. Now it's almost like, okay, we understand it, because I think they're indoctrinating them kids at a young age anyway. So it's. Yeah, I think baseball looks at it differently. Let's say I may look at it, or you two may look at it because of what from your career. And but I like to see that guy that, like we all do naturally, they can go 6, 7, 8 innings, and you don't have to worry about it, because what happens? I think if they're going to keep this analytics up so heavy, they're going to have to increase roster size, man. Because what you don't get from your starting pitcher, you're killing your bullpen. Mm-hmm. Those guys, you need more and more of those guys. So maybe, okay, if that's a route you want to go, bump up your roster by 2 or 3 extra players, and then it may work a little bit easier, I would think.
Well, the days where you could, you look at the lineup, and Doc Halladay is pitching that day. Managers like you could just go to sleep. I mean, you got nothing to do for the next 2.5 hours, because Doc's gonna fill the void, and you can just have a nap. Yeah. Those days, right. Those days are gone.
Exactly. Isn't that what you're supposed to do?
Well, yeah. Which is why I have such low regard for the skill level of managers. Because right. for all my growing up, and I'm being facetious here, John, that, but we grew up in an era where if you got a stud starter on the mound that day, if you got a Nolan Ryan, a Halladay, well, I mean, there's a million of them. You were pretty comfortable that your bullpen was probably going to get a rest that day. Well, your bullpen today is not getting any days off. None.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, so it's almost like they're expendable, or maybe that's why they just look for the hard throwers. They don't have to have a lot of necessarily skill as much. And they just turn them out there, boom, throw their 1 inning, get them out of there, and just, next, that kind of thing. Yeah. I I don't like the way the game is now, in from that vantage point. But it's not changing. It's not changing. Guys are bigger and stronger and throw harder now, and that's really seems to be all that's what they're looking for.
Yeah, but on the other hand, they have, John and I have talked about this endlessly. This whole philosophy came from the notion that you don't want a starting pitcher to go through a lineup for the third time. And I'm not questioning the statistical merit of that. I think it's probably pretty solid. The downside, and they've gone out and spent millions and millions of dollars on all this exercise equipment and health stuff at all the training camps. I don't know if you've seen Dunedin since you left,
no.
But it's apparently it's pretty spectacular what they've done there. But pitchers are getting hurt as much or worse than they ever were. The human arm is not meant to throw 98 miles an hour, 150 pitches in a day. This is an inevitability. So they're projecting their own demise, baseball is, I think, by doing all this stuff. Give me a guy like Ryu. Ryu's a perfect example. Pitched yesterday for the Blue Jays. I don't think he threw a pitch over 92. Most of his fastballs were 89, 90. He got to 100 pitchers, was on cruise control, and they just yanked him because. I mean, wouldn't you like to see us go back to that?
Yeah, I guess what bothers me is I don't care when you're managing, you're going to make mistakes. I mean, that's just part of it. But it's okay. Let's say you got average Joe on the mound, right? And if you're just watching what he's doing, this may be his day. He may just be on, and you know what? And they can't do anything with him. But for some reason, that's just his day, right?
Yep.
And he gets yanked automatically like the third time through. And then maybe that's once you just maybe you watch him and let him run as far as he can. Now there's your day that you give your bullpen a break.
Yeah.
And I've had it happen to me many a times that you got a guy that's rolling. It wasn't because of this was a little earlier in my career. It had nothing to do with third time through the lineup. But the guy's getting up there and pitches, and you look a little bit, he looks a little fatigued, maybe, let's say. You take him out of the game, and it's almost like if you look in their dugout, they're going, "Thank you very much, man. Yeah. We appreciate it." And what happens? The game swings. It's like the baseball god says, "Screw you," It's but yes, that's where I think, okay, yeah, numbers don't lie. Usually, a lot of them have trouble third time through the lineup. Okay, that's okay. We had those stats before they got heavy analytics. But on any given night, guys have, that's the beauty of baseball. Guys have those huge nights sometimes for whatever reason, it just happens. And so maybe you let that guy roll. Hell, he might go a complete game for you. Now those guys down there in the bullpen are going, "Thank you very much." But I mean, the game. So I think sometimes you got to let the game dictate your moves,
Sure.
How it's going. I didn't even see the World Series last year, that final game, but buddy of mine called me right after, I guess, when they yanked Snell, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't question what anybody else does, because I know I don't like that when that happened to me, and I know it's not that easy. But I understand, I guess he was on a roll. The Dodgers weren't doing anything with him. What happens? He comes out of the game, and because he was coming up to the top guys who he had dominated all night. But here's his last start of the year, and he's rolling.
Well, I was going to say his next start was going to be in 5 months. Like, yeah. What are you taking him out for?
That's the biggest game of the year. I mean, your life. Yeah, I get it. If he's showing signs and he's starting to get hit around a little bit, it's okay. But are you going to be able to bring in anything better than that? I used to just kind of judge some of my moves. Okay, is the guy I'm bringing in better than what I got out there right now? And maybe it's not a good move.
So John, talking about that, you got your starter. He's gone to a point now. At what point do you say to your bench coach, saying, "Listen, wouldn't it be great to be able to give our bullpen a rest? Isn't that important too?"
Oh yeah, because I guarantee you burn through those guys too early in the year. When you need them late, they're done. But I think maybe the thinking nowadays, you just sign as many guys as you can, and you just, when you need them, you just grab them and hope you have enough.
Now, you were a catcher. I'm intrigued by when you were managing, when you were in the dugout. did you go to your catcher on any kind of a regular basis, when your team was hitting and say, how does he look? He looks okay from here, but what do you see?
That's exactly right, Bob. Yeah, I used to do it. Well, definitely with Russell Park. Russ and I used to do that. Then it was Zonnie some, believe it or not. Yeah. I think it's important. Yeah, because I'm watching from the side, and I can kind of, this is my opinion anyway, and I can kind of see what's going on a little bit. But they're catching it head on. They're seeing the swings up close, and I think, and if you're a major league catcher, you should have a really good feel of what this guy's got. Yeah. And so I put a lot of stock in that. I don't think that I'm not they're turning over control to anything like that, but I think those guys, especially if they're known for their defense and things like that, I think you're smart if you rely on them.
Sorry, John, you were going to say?
Well, no, it's so you were talking about scouting. It's probably more important to scout hitters right now. What are you looking for when you scout a hitter? Pitchers might be even more straightforward. So when you're looking for a hitter at the plate, what are you looking for?
Well, you know what? Naturally you want to, well, the way the game is going right now, guys are just airing it out, right? You get the big, strong guys, and now you obviously some guys are better hitters than others, but I think the hitting mentality's changed too. Where they everybody wants to see the long ball, right? And they get paid for that. I remember 2015 when I thought we were going to win the World Series. We got knocked out by the Kansas City Royals, who put the ball in play. They built their team around their stadium, and that they were going to win every close game because they had good team speed, and they were going to put the ball in play, make the plays, right? And that beat us. That beat a lot of teams that year. And now it's changed a lot. So I'm looking for naturally the pure hitter, that kind of thing. The guy that's can hit the ball the other way, because you know what, there's a lot of value. You can have all the sluggers you want, but you still have to have guys that get on base. So these guys, when they do hit the home run, they drive them in. And there's something to be said about moving the baseball. Put a little pressure. Heck, in 15 when we came back and beat the Texas Rangers down 0-2. Remember that one inning before Batista's left hit? They couldn't catch the ball. Pressure, all that. Okay, well, if we're striking out there or what have you, they don't have to catch the ball. So things happen when you're under the gun and you got to make a play. So naturally, and I'm not alone in this. I'm sure you guys like to see the 300 hitters, which doesn't matter. The old pure hitter that. When you get two strikes on you, the guy's not going to overdo it. He's just, he's going to make something happen. So when you say look for a hitter, naturally you want some guy that's got some kind of sock. That he doesn't have to hit home runs, but he's got to be able to drive the ball in the gaps. But there's definitely a place for guys that get on base, however that is, in pure hitters, because those are the guys that score the runs.
Yeah, the stat that everybody in baseball today that's bought into the analytics dismisses immediately is batting average. It's almost like it's irrelevant. And the three of us are a bunch of dinosaurs, because I'll tell you, it's one of the first things I look at. When that guy comes to the plate on TV and I'm looking at the stats in the bottom of the screen, first thing I look at is batting average. And you too. Yeah, I know. And they dismiss it as fundamentally irrelevant.
Yeah, and Bob, that tells me if a guy can hit or not. If a guy's hitting 300, after 300-400 at bats, it's not a fluke. The guy can hit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, would you have cut Rod Carew because he couldn't hit home runs?
Perfect example. Don't forget old Mr. Pete Rose.
Pete Rose, same thing.
Right.
He'd hit these guys had hit the odd one out, but these guys were going to hit 300, 330, 350 every bleeping year. And, every once in a while, somebody like Guerrero comes along who can do it all, who can get you a ton of base hits. I think he's hitting around 340, still tied for the lead in home runs and all world and everything else. He leads in virtually every category. Well, those guys don't come along every day. You can't scout that, right? But the value of being on base is huge, whether it's through walks or through singles, you know.
Exactly. Let's say you get a guy, a guy that just came to mind, just because he's not that far removed from this, all the analytic stuff. He's like Ichiro, right?
Sure. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Exactly. He just peppered that ball, and people didn't necessarily like his game. But you get that guy on third base less than 2 outs, right? Okay, a strikeout, you're done. It kill you. But if you put some ball in play, if that guy can run it all, or something, there's a good chance you're going to score a run, which is the name of the game, is scoring runs. Those guys, it's sad that they've been dismissed. Yeah, I get it. Everybody, guys that can hit the extra base hits, that hit the home runs. Yeah, everybody loves the muscle, but. It's like in football. If you don't have an offensive line, those guys open up. You know what? That running back, he's not going to get his 150 yards a game, because it's like they got to have complementary players and everything.
Yeah. Do you ever see the game going back that way, John?
Yeah, I do, because it's kind of funny. Maybe not all the way, but it's funny. Kind of you hear some more rumbling nowadays. It seems like that. Wasn't it Mattingly just came out recently and saying the game was tough to watch?
Yeah.
There's a guy that could hit home runs. He took advantage of Yankee Stadium, but the guy he was a 300 hitter.
Yep.
Right. That's what we're talking about.
Sure.
The complete hitter. Right. And I think people are kind of getting fed up with some of that. Now you got the thing about the stick 'em on the balls and things like that they're watching. I do think fans are frustrated with the game the way it is.
Well, we all know pitchers cheat, and they've cheated for as long as we've known, whether they had files in their gloves or hairspray or stickum or goop or whatever they had. Guys have been doctoring baseball since the beginning of time. This is not exactly the most interesting revelation in the history of baseball. Oh, pitchers are cheating? Well, of course they are. It's no different than, the pine tar crap. Remember with George Brett?
Right.
No different than loading the bat, drilling a hole in the end of it and putting something in there or hollowing
cork.
It out.
Yeah, cork.
Putting cork in the bat. Yeah. And it's going to happen as long as the game is played. Okay. Guys are going to try and bend the rules.
So, John, you're, as the old catcher, and I mean, this is not true confessions or anything, but do you ever help a pitcher cheat?
By I've heard of some catchers. They'll keep something on their shin guard or something like that, and you heard about I don't remember who it was, but they would sharpen their where the buckle where you connect your you take to secure your shin guard.
Yeah,
and they cut it. They could cut it that way. And I said, I thought that was pretty brilliant. But no, I personally I didn't do that. But you know what? It's when I was coming up as a player, and then in my coaching days, it was. You knew guys, it was kind of accepted part of the game, because I don't think it affected too many things. Guys would have a little stick up to get better grip. Okay, I think in baseball, nobody thought anything of that, right? Because the game was played pretty even. You knew if you had a better pitcher on the mound, he's probably going to beat you. It's not like something's not going to give average Joe turn him into Cy Young, Mm-hmm. And so it's just kind of one of those things. Now, I was just reading up a little bit on, the stuff they're using now. It's like saving guys' careers. And it's obvious. They do things in front of the umpires and things like that, and nobody seems to care. And maybe something they're using now is because maybe that's really affected the offenses. Because I mean it's but it's almost like it's automatic. They get a couple strikes and they're going to elevate the ball, right? I mean, that's just kind of what they do. And this helps, this new stuff apparently is doing something better than the old stuff, I guess you could say. And it's kind of like the cheating thing with the Astros, right? Everybody would try to steal signs, that, if in the way you dealt with it, if you thought so, you'd say something, the pitcher would turn around the guy on second base, or the catcher or somebody would say something to the hitter, say, if he keeps doing that, you're gonna get hit, right? Okay, right. That would usually stop it. And if it didn't stop it, somebody would get hit, and then the other team would do it, and it might be a brawl, and then that usually solved it. Now the problem is, if you end up you try to settle it that way, you end up hitting a guy. Now the commissioner fines or suspends you, so you can't do. I mean, the players don't police themselves. So my point is, with the Houston thing. yeah, naturally teams got, but now when you start bringing the electronics, the cameras, and really, banging on drums or whatever, now it's kind of whether it's gone, you're going too far above and beyond. It just feels like you are. So maybe, let's tone it down. That's all.
We're with John Gibbons, the former manager of the Blue Jays. We'll take a quick break, come back with more after these messages. It's Bob McCown. It's John Shannon, and the former manager of the Toronto Blue Jays, John Gibbons, is with us from Texas. The other thing that drives me crazy, and again, this is three guys of a certain age reflecting back on growing up with
glory days.
Yeah, the glory days. That's right.
That's true. I love it. A guy would throw a ball in the dirt. Catcher would scoop it out of the dirt, throw it back to the pitcher. Balls didn't get changed unless they were hit out of play or were cut to the point where they were going to fall apart with the next hit. Now, right. So here's the thing that drives me crazy. Excuse me. So as a former pitcher of no note, I loved it. The more scuffed up that baseball was, the better. I could get a better grip on it. I could throw my breaking ball better. My fastball would move better. Now, every baseball is brand spanking new.
Right.
And a pitcher gets a new baseball, takes a look at it, and then throws it out. Give me another new baseball. This is something I do not understand.
No.
Can you kind of explain that?
Well, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it used to be economics, man. The owners say, "Hey, we're going through too many baseballs." I can remember in spring training when I was with the Mets in the 80s. They one of the coaches, somebody come out bitching about, "Hey, we saw so and so during batting practice throwing balls into the stands, or even during the season." And it's like, because they were conscious of the amount of money they were spending. So now maybe that's not a fact. I don't know, but you're right. I don't. It's like. Yeah, it's just another one thing. Like you were talking about, guy. Yeah, you scuff a ball. If you were smart enough, if you figured out how you could make a little scuff on the ball work to your advantage. And you know what else? I can remember because in '86 I was with the Mets in the playoffs, right? And I wasn't on the active roster, but I caught in the bullpen. So that series against the Astros, that went to. That was an 18-inning game. Was it game 6? And they knew if it went to game 7, Mike Scott was pitching, right? And Scott back then was known for scuffing the balls. And the Mets, they rolled out. They got a few balls that were rolled out of the game. They're all scuffed in the same spot. Okay, so what? Nobody did anything about it. They just, it gave that guy an advantage. Nobody complained. The commissioner didn't do anything. It was just kind of an accepted part. And it's because he was smart enough to figure out if he did something, held it, so it's kind of that. Now it just seems like everything's so lopsided. I was reading an article. Who's the outfield? Charlie for the Rockies. Wears a beard. Charlie. Anyway, he's a good hitter. Hit a lot of home runs. He's outfielder, center fielder. And anyway, his article was saying now he swings for where he thinks the ball is going to go because the ball is doing something that they've never seen before. I'm going, okay, and I'm thinking, damn. Maybe maybe there is something there. Maybe they need to tone it down a little bit or do something. And I don't know. It's a tough call.
Well, we can sit here and opine endlessly, but I don't think that part of the game is likely to change.
Bobby, your big sport, golf, is the only one they can't cheat in. Or get caught cheating.
Yeah, listen. There's a lot. There's enough there. There's enough in the game.
There's a code in golf that does not exist in other sports. I can assure you that, Gibbons. So as you look at the game today, is there a guy out there that impresses you more than anybody else? I don't know how much you've got to see Vladdy Jr., and it's really early in his career, so he doesn't have the resume that in order to put him into the upper echelon. Based on what you've seen, is Trout still the best player in the game overall?
Yeah, when he's healthy, yeah, he gets hurt all the time too. Probably. You say that, when in as good as Trout has always been, he didn't seem to burn us as much as might have been some other guys. maybe because we didn't play him as often and all that. But yeah, as far as, naturally, I think you look at the future of the game, and a guy like Vlad, he comes along, and I'm just glad to see, I think a lot of people run out of pay or were worried what's wrong with the kid. Sometimes you just leave him alone. When you're that good, because if Vladdy didn't make it right, 100% of baseball was wrong. That doesn't normally happen, But sometimes we get caught up too, and we try to help them do this or that. With a really good ones, you throw them out there, when you're rebuilding, say, go get him, kid. You naturally you help him, you do your drills, whatever makes a guy tick. But it does take a little bit of time, and sometimes you got to just stay out of the kid's head, man. So, some kids keep it simpler, and they're really good.
So how do you feel? Sorry, John, go ahead.
No, go, Bob.
Well, how do you feel about the notion of bringing a kid up too soon? And I know it wasn't necessarily part of your mandate as manager to make that decision. That's the front office most of the time. But I'm sure you were involved in those conversations. If you've got, like Manoah, the kid that the Blue Jays have brought up and has done a pretty decent job. He's 22 years old, had like 35 or 40 innings pitching at AAA, by all accounts wasn't ready. It was kind of a desperation move that may have worked out. Vladdy was here when he was 18, 19 years old, expedited through the system, justifiably, I guess. But do you believe in you got to stay in the minors for 4 or 5 years at least? Or do you think there are plenty of exceptions out there?
Yeah, Bob, I think there's exceptions to everything, and you look at like a guy like Vladdy, he's just dominating where he's at, right? And it depends on where your team's at too, right? When sure. I think Vladdy was in AA and got to AAA, we turned to crap, when I was there, and so there was no need, why take a chance? Now I will say this: I'm totally against bringing a guy up early to save money. I think that's wrong. That's absolutely wrong, because if the kid can help you win some games. But I think I've always been kind of fair-minded. If your team's got no shot at this, an extra month or two seasoning, whatever it might be, I got you. But as long as it's not economics, which is hard, because that plays a big part in everything. Now, if you really think your team's got a chance, you look at the overall league, or you built this team to win, or something like that. Now, I think you gamble more with them young guys. If they can, doesn't mean they come up and they have to stick necessarily, because most of them go down anyway, a time or two. But if they can help you in the moment, because that's the way you're built for this particular year, then yeah, I see nothing wrong with it. I do think this is one time where I think you need a pretty good consensus, the people that know the kids and are with them all the time, because you just don't, as managers and coaches at that particular level, you want everything, right?
Oh yeah.
But yet, if you get guys in the minor league system and things like that have seen this guy, and they say, you know what, he could probably, he's tearing this up, but you know what, he needs this or that. Then you got to put some stock in that, right? For the top guys. But if they're going to help you win, what's the name of the game? It's going to win. And if the real good ones, if they come up a little early, it doesn't crush them.
How much interaction would you have with the minor league managers and coaches when you were with the big club?
John, it depends, who it was, or some years I quite a bit, some years very little. Usually, it's a lot of stuff is run through the front offices, and a lot of times too, you get AAA managers are pissed off you don't have them on the big league staff. So they're not trying to help you anyway.
So speaking of that, do you ever see yourself back in a major league dugout?
John, I would love to. That's my goal, my dream. Time's ticking. I get it, and I kind of got. I think I kind of got a bum rap that I'm anti-analytics. No, I'm not anti-anything. But I don't get carried away like some people. We were doing stuff before. Analytics really. We remember. Played Troy Gloss at shortstop. We had a fly ball pitcher on the mound, right? Things like that. Batista leading off. So not opposed to anything, but I think I've kind of got that. I might have had some conflict with some front office people that they have word gets out there like that you resist this or that. In this day and age, and I be honest with you, I don't think you get a job as a major league manager this day and age if you're not 100% say, hey, you know what, we're going to dictate this, that, and that. And if you can't buy in that, if you're opposed to that, and you think you need to make more of your own decision, you got no shot of getting a job.
And so at the moment, I think. So in that job interview, if they said that to you, you would say what?
I'd say, well, I said, you know what I think is not that because I've managed before, but if I can't make out a lineup, you know what, something's freaking wrong here. You know what I mean? If I can, I see it too now. And we sometimes you juggle lineups. I don't get off on a different thing here. Sometimes you juggle lineups because things aren't working, or maybe you don't have the firepower of the team, 1 through 9 or what have you. Sure. But one of the biggest complaints I always heard from guys, especially we had veteran players, we change the lineup too much. We can't do that. So when day to day you got this guy in this because this number say this or that. I think maybe it's an excuse or whatever, but it gets in these guys' heads, and it drives them crazy, and they use it as an alibi or whatever. He goes, if we leave the lineup alone, we might hit. Well, we left the lineup alone, but you weren't hitting then, so we're juggling, we're trying something. So I guess my point is, if everything's a perfect science and these guys were robots and you were guaranteed a certain outcome if you did it this certain way. Okay, but they're not. These are human beings. There's a human element. You can't forget that.
How do you feel about days off? Every player gets days off now. Again, Cal Ripken played 2,000 games in a row, never got a day off. Now, okay, he was lucky he wasn't hurt. If a guy's hurt, I get that. But again, the change in the game. There will be no more Cal Ripkens.
No.
That is never going to happen. Playing 162 games, in one season is almost going to be an impossibility, isn't it?
Yeah, Bob, it's funny, and I was talking to somebody about this the other day. It used to be a badge of honor, man, if you could play every game in the season.
Hell yes.
That's kind of what's expected of baseball. Yeah, baseball is a physical sport, but come on. It's not like some of the other ones. Let's go. And, guys accepted the fact that they got to play banged up. And, that's just part of it. That's just, but you wanted, and if you're going to have a really big year, you needed to be out there. You couldn't be taking days off, and it's like, I can remember even like Jose Bautista, Jose expected to be in the lineup probably my number one player of all time as far as came to play every day, never wanted a day off. And because you know what, Jose, he was going to maximize his career, right? That's a big part of it. Not only that, in the big league level, and fans are paying to see certain players play, right? Okay, exactly. So what do you have to check a schedule? This guy's off this thing. No, because normally they're in the lineup every day. Well, they know when they get hurt. So, okay, maybe they might not go that day because they like, this all-star player more than another. So I would think from an owner's perspective, you say, wait a minute, I'm paying this guy $20 million a year, and he can't go out there every day. See, I never understood that. And being, I was a catcher. In the minor leagues, I played damn near every day, so I know what the grind feels like. But you know what, you kind of train your brain, and you just go out there and do it. I mean, what do they do that in hockey? Can they do that in hockey?
Well, that's the famous
they
line.
do it with goaltenders, I can tell you that.
They started it with goaltenders. It's goaltending kind of it's getting like pitching. It's getting like pitching. You don't see guys. You're not going to get 30 starts in the major leagues anymore, or if you are, you're not going to get 6 innings. It's the same for goaltending now.
Really, I'll be done.
Yeah.
Because I always viewed hockey. You got to be a tough nut to play hockey. I don't care what. It's more so than the other sports. Football, yeah, I get it, but there's something about these guys, and you know what? They're mentally tougher. Doesn't mean they were born that way necessarily, but it was ingrained at a young age, and that's what they do. Same thing with baseball. These guys, hey, you know what? And I tell guys if they're a little banged up, well, half-ass at the first base if you hit a ball. You don't have to go 100% and blow your hand up if you're a little bit tight or sore. Just be smart. But the team needs you out there, and people come to see you play.
Yeah.
No, of course, obviously, if the guy's hurt, he plays that night and it injures it worse and he's done for a while. Yeah, that's common sense. But it's almost like, not only that, one last thing. I know I'm rambling here. Some of these guys get on a roll, right? Let's say a guy's got a hitting streak going on, right? Okay, DiMaggio. Okay, what was it? Was it 50-some games? What was the
56? 56.
Okay,
yeah.
At game 45, he's going to tell me he needs a day off. You know, because there's some things. The beauty of baseball that people get on these rolls, whether it's a pitcher or a player, and you can't explain it. You don't even. When people ask you about it, it's like I'm not going to talk about this because I'll curse it, right? And so you take a day off. That may be just what screws up your nice little roll you're on because your timing now your timing's gone. It's nice. It's not. I get it. Guys get banged up and okay, but come on, it's baseball.
Hey, one more question from me. So you talked earlier about the year you played Kansas City and how the Royals used Kauffman Stadium to their advantage. It was you couldn't hit very many home runs in it, so it was lots of doubles, lots of singles. Was the Sky Dome ever a disadvantage for you? Was Rogers Center ever that building that said, "Man, this is not helping us"?
Well, you know what? The ball flies there, right? And so you get I think you can bring the Royals in back then. They're going to hit some home runs when they get to this place too. So they kind of, I think we geared our teams that way, because of that. But it's like, I've been watching, a little bit of the Yankees now, right? A lot of teams in baseball that, they build them if everybody can hit home runs in the lineup. You know what? Wow, we love it. Okay. And, but everybody goes cold at once or they're struggling. You still have to hit in LeMahieu, right? The guy that was kind of the catalyst, get on base, do all that. He was struggling earlier, I think. So there's you can't build your team to, like when we talk about the dome there, everybody can't be home run hitters there, even if it's a good place to hit home runs, because you know what? And there was a lot of times we hit a lot of solo home runs in some of the leaner years. Okay, yeah, that's great, but if we had got a guy or two on base, that might turn into a win. I don't know.
And when you and Paul, would you in that time discuss roof open, roof closed
with Godfrey?
No, with Beeston or Godfrey.
Oh, no, you wouldn't. No, you know what? The only time I ever talked roof open, roof closed with Beast, man. I love Beast. Is when it was for Dickie, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And it wasn't like Paul was going, "Hey, should we leave it up?" You go. We both kind of go, "Are you kidding me with this?" Really, because analytics. We're looking at analytics. You'd say, well, when he won his Cy Young and he was pitching for the Mets outdoors,
right?
Okay, so he's been in here in Toronto, the only place that has a dome for a year, half year. How does he know if he does better this and that? Because he won a Cy Young outdoors. So, it's like, I thought, there was a lot of alibi Ike stuff in there, and so Paul and I would kind of laugh, you get, if it was going to be raining and stuff like that, okay, maybe there might be, but that's for the fans too. But if it was a temperature thing, no, you can't. I don't think you can let things dictate that. Now, if you'd been at 15-0 at one point and said, "Hey, can we leave that open?" Might have given it a little more stock.
Well, you're my favorite manager of all time, and and I ain't lying to you. And I'll tell you. And I used to say this on the air all the time. And I don't know if you've heard me say this, but you know how I judge a manager? I judge a manager based on his decisions with his bullpen. And if I agree with the decision the manager makes, he's the best manager ever. And I agreed with you more than I agreed with anybody else. And I love the fact that you were never afraid to make that call well, let me put it in the form of a question. Don't you think you could tell when a guy didn't have it on a particular night and could tell probably 5 pitches in?
Oh, yeah. There's no doubt.
Get his ass out. Right.
And, there was times early on, like you said, I could see that, but, you wait too long, boom, now the game's out of hand. That's the thing about the thing about Major League Baseball, when I managed in the minor leagues, then in the big leagues, things happen fast, man, in the big leagues. It just does. And if you wait that one guy too long, you wait too long,
game's over.
Boom, one shot, now the game swing. You're right. The game's over. So you really gotta be on your toes, and you can't be afraid to, yank somebody. But it goes back to, Bob, what we're talking about now. These guys, the bullpens get abused. That's just the nature of the game now. So you know what? They're running off fumes hell in May. You know what? So there's going to be many times they go out there, they've got nothing. So maybe you take them out before you normally would. You could tell.
Well, I think I speak for John. We'd love to see you back in a major league uniform, or
at least a sweat top. Because
whatever.
Maybe he never wore that darn uniform underneath.
Super Scout. Hey, I'm a Super Scout.
Oh yeah.
I just want to see one of the players that I like get signed.
There you go.
That'd be good too. Well, listen, we love talking to you, and we really appreciate your time. And hopefully we'll get a chance to do it again in not too distant future.
Lots of people miss you.
Hey, I miss you guys, man. You've been
we miss you too.
Here, and you guys stay safe.
You too. Well, there's Gibby. I don't know if we had a technical issue there, but we may have. If we did, we apologize. If we didn't, never mind. John Gibbons,
we didn't.
Former manager of the Toronto Blue Jays. On another note, before we go.
Yeah.
Vegas pulled a rabbit out of their hat last night.
Oh, boy.
And beat the Montreal Canadiens to tie that series up at 2-2. But I don't have, usually you get, I don't know about you, but you get a feeling about momentum in a series. I don't have that feeling in this series. I think Vegas could come back and win game 5. I think Montreal could come back and win game 5. You got any kind of sense here?
No. To me, the biggest issue will be how the Montreal defense, which has been so good in the Toronto series, so good in the Winnipeg series, so good at times in this series, controls play. But they're starting to get banged up, Bob. Shea Weber's a little banged up. Jeff Petrie's got a bad hand. Ben Sherratt might be playing too many minutes. Edmondson has become a horse for this team. A lot of it's dictated from a Montreal perspective about how those big four defensemen are able to manage a team that really Vegas has had a difficult time scoring.
Their forwards have been virtually absent.
Do you know how many goals? So they played four games in this series. Do you know how many goals they've scored in the whole series?
I think the forwards have scored 2.
3 now because Waugh scored the overtime goal.
Oh, right. Okay.
But they've scored 10 goals in 4 games.
Yeah.
That's if you're, this is
a team but it is the playoffs.
I know, but that's how good Carey's been too.
No, you're right. But Vegas has had trouble scoring
goals. And 7 of those 10 goals have come from the defenseman. 7 goals.
I know.
7 goals. That's a huge issue for Vegas. And then of course Pete DeBoer goes and decides after the Fleury gaff that he puts Robin Lehner in, and the Big Panda plays a great game in Game 4. A great game in Game 4.
I know this is just opinion, but do you honestly think it was because of the Fleury gaff in Game 4?
I think Pete DeBoer was. I think he was waiting for a mistake by Fleury to put Lehner in. Pete DeBoer is a Lehner fan. He is. That's not to say that he dislikes Fleury, but Pete DeBoer believes in big goaltenders, and that philosophy and that style.
All right.
And he was the one who pushed for them to get Lehner in the first place. And then last year in the bubble, he remember Alan Walsh and the famous knife through the back.
Oh yeah.
This is that Pete DeBoer and Robin Lehner are more in sync than Pete DeBoer and Marc-Andre Fleury are in sync.
All right. On the way out the door, here's the question: who plays Game 5?
Oh, no question, Robin Lehner. Robin Lehner for sure. I
don't think it's for sure.
Oh, I do.
I mean, I think he probably will, but I don't think, Fleury made a gaffe. There's no doubt about it.
Sure he did.
It wound up costing them a game.
Yeah.
But He has played very, very
well.
But
let me ask you this: if so, the other Andrei Vasilevsky is one of the nominees for the Vezina. Semyon Varlamov in the other end of the ice for the Islanders isn't, but he's been very good. Carey Price. If Carey Price, Semyon Varlamov, or Andrei Vasilevsky make a similar gaffe in their game,
they don't
one gaffe, do they get pulled?
No, 100% not.
So this,
and I don't think that, and that's
this
why
precipitated getting. Well, no, I mean, if you listen to DeBoer after game,
you don't honestly think if Carey Price did that, he sits on the bench the next game?
No, I don't. So why would you treat Marc-Andre Fleury, who's had an outstanding playoff series?
I don't have the answer to that.
And I think this is historical. Pete DeBoer supports Robin Lehner from the beginning. We've talked about this 20 times, Bob, in the last 14 months.
Well, I don't get it, and I still don't get it. I think probably Lehner gets the call, but I think it should at least be a toss-up. So
here's the dilemma, Coach.
Yes.
Lehner starts game 5, for the sake of argument, loses in overtime. They go to Montreal for game 6. Who are you playing?
Well, it depends on whether he makes a gaff or not.
I guess.
We're not going to answer this question because we can't, and nobody can except DeBoer himself.
Yeah.
And we'll see soon enough who gets the call for game 5 back in Vegas. That's it for us. Again, thanks to Gibby, for John Shannon, Bob McCown. Have yourselves a good day. We'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye.